But there was quite a bit, and I was expecting it, quite a bit of talk about Dave Doeren and Dave Canales' job security. And reason being, the Panthers got smoked by the New England Patriots after a win kind of got everybody's hopes up that things were going to be different this time. And NC State, coached by Dave Doeren, lost to Virginia Tech in what some, including me, called a must-win game. Virginia Tech was reeling. It was, both were reasonably expected to be better performances by the teams. Here is my official take. My official response, I would like to register it. Can we get it notarized? My official response.
It's on the record.
To the listeners that basically, in their fantasy worlds, which we all live in, fired both coaches or one of those coaches yesterday. The easy part of being NFL owner, or the easy part of being the athletic director or the president of the university, is firing the coach. The easy part is saying, this hasn't lived up to our expectations. We want more. We want better. We're a program that deserves better. Our money should be bringing better results back. We want to fire the coach. That's the easiest part of the whole thing. What you have to ask yourself before you pull the trigger on an event like that, on a decision like that, is, are you in position to do everything the right way after? And it's not just the most logical question in the world, which I ask all the time, which is there someone out there better that you can get? Right? When you bench your quarterback, and I'm looking at the backup quarterbacks going, that guy may not be good enough, but I'm not sure the guys are going to put in there are good enough either. Right? If you fire your coach, do you think you have the ability to go out and get a better coach in that spot? That's the first part. That's just surface level. That's just run-of-the-mill stuff. Any old decision maker knows, all right, well, let me go to my little black book and see what numbers I have in here, what agents I can talk to, and see if we can get better. There's also a laundry list of other things. We'll start with State, right? Let's say Dave Doeren, most wins in program history. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a firing, right? Maybe there's a nudging towards retirement or something like that. There's a, hey, let's get in a room, let's have some bourbon, and let's talk about the future of the program. Maybe there's a way we do this without the fire word, right? Who knows? I'm just spitballing here, no insider information. You can think your team needs a fresh voice leading it and still recognize, even if we get the fresh voice, there's other things holding us back. UNC, and I know the Bill Belichick thing hasn't worked out as fantastic immediately as they want, but they fired Mac Brown, and what'd they have to do? They ponied up a whole bunch of cash, doubled the salary for the head coach, brought in a ton of money for NIL revenue share, brought in a ton of money for support staff and assistant coaches, brought in a ton of money in so many different ways. Virginia Tech fired their coach a handful of weeks ago. Guess what happened today? They approved $229 million in additional football budget over the next 4 years. That is $57 million in change per year in additional funding. You fire your coach in today's modern college football environment, it's not just, we'll go find a different guy. It's, you got to find a different guy and $50 million per year if you want to give the next guy the chance of having success. I'm all for exploring every option, but you have to honestly look at yourself and say, do we have the resources to do everything right? Because here's the deal. If Virginia Tech, and I'm not bashing on Virginia Tech here, I've covered Virginia Tech. I've got friends that are still in that world. They're in the middle of nowhere. Blacksburg is not a metropolis. As someone who grew up in Virginia, yeah, there ain't nothing around Blacksburg other than Blacksburg. If they're coming up with $57 million a year additionally, and you're out there in the coaching market and you're looking for the best possible candidate, and they're throwing like, hey, we may not have, the designer stores in the mall, but we got $57 million in addition to what we already had in budget, you're probably going to lose out on coaching candidates unless you're bringing similar resources to the table. Now let's look at it from the Dave Canales of it all, right? There's multiple conversations going on here. The immediate future for the Panthers, and when I talk about immediate future, I mean at least the next 2 months, it's Dave Canales and Bryce Young. Okay? Because that's all that makes sense. Making the change now, there's no logic there. If you make the decision that Dave Canales is not the guy, I do think it would be whole-scale changes. I don't think you're keeping Dan Morgan and firing Dave Canales, or you're keeping Bryce Young and firing Dave Canales, or any two of the three and keeping the third. And the reason being is you got to learn from your mistakes, right? The four horsemen of the franchise that we talk about, owner, GM, head coach, quarterback, have to be on the same page, have to trust each other with their lives. The last time they made a switch, you'd like to think that the hirer believes in the people he's hiring. So this most recent time, what'd you have? You had David Tepper hiring Dave Canales after promoting Dan Morgan. But they inherited a quarterback. They had a holdover from the previous regime in the quarterback Bryce Young. And guess what we've talked about most in the last year and a half? I'm not sure if Dave Canales trusts Bryce. I'm not sure if Bryce trusts Dave Canales. Would you look at that? The one that was a holdover, the one that wasn't brought in the proper order, is where the circle of trust has been off kilter, has been not lined up. You need to kind of do things in the right order. Owner hires a GM. The GM and the owner get together. They hire a head coach. The head coach, the GM, and the owner get together. They pick a quarterback. And then everybody is invested in everybody's success in the same way. And there's no, well, dang, I wouldn't have taken him. I would have kept our 9th pick, and I would have drafted Jalen Carter, and then I would have taken Drake May the next year. I would have taken Jaden Daniels the next year. Now I would have done this, and I am this guy. He's not that. And then even if it's subconscious. So before you just willy-nilly take either of the Daves, Dave Doeren or Dave Canales, and in your brain just go, he's gone, he should be gone, he's not doing this, he's not doing what he's promised, ask yourself, okay, let's play the mind game. Let's do the first step. Fire the coach. All right, do we have a second step? Do we know someone out there that we realistically think we can hire that is a better coach? All right, now do the third step. In NC State's case, it would be, can we come up with the funding? Can we come up with the over-the-top spending that would give that new and better coach a realistic chance of establishing themselves quickly? And in the Panthers case, it would be, if we move on from Dave, are we ready to move on from Bryce? Are we ready to potentially move on from Dan Morgan? Because unless all of those are in alignment, there's a good chance you're going to be looking at a circle of trust, and there's going to be a link missing in the chain.
So yeah, here's the potential cycle you can go back down. We can probably dive in more of this later on. If you're the Carolina Panthers, could you fall into the trap of, okay, let's say you move on from Bryce, Dave Canales can bring in his own guy, and Dave Canales the team still fails. So then you move on from Canales and you're bringing in another coach and that QB is not their guy, then you get back into the cycle of it all again.
Their timelines aren't aligned.
Yeah.
It's like when you're trying to move in with your boyfriend or girlfriend, but your leases are like 6 months off. You know what I mean? So it's like when you're ready to move, they're not ready, and your place isn't big enough for two. You got roommates, and it's like, so now they sign another year lease, and then when you're ready to move, you're like, well, you got 6 more months on your lease. It's, it's like 3 years for a coach and quarterback, right? If you draft highly a quarterback, unless it goes astronomically bad, you usually get 2.5, 3 years before you're fully 100% moved on. It's usually 2.5, 3 years if you do it right and give them the chance for a head coach. So if you started Bryce a year earlier than Dave, yeah, after this year, you're probably ready to either, make a decision on Bryce or jump off the wagon there. And you're going, well, we really need to give Dave Canales one more year. All right, well, now Dave Canales gets, I don't know, Garrett Nussmeier, gets Lenora Sellers. And if it doesn't work for a year, you're going, well, we can't give up on the quarterback. But Dave's had now 3 years. It's time, and it never lines up. So somebody's going to get the raw end of the deal if you make the move. Somebody's not going to get their full 3 years because along the way you've messed up the timelines. There's just more than just, I don't like the product on the field, fire them now. You think that's like a finish line. That's a starting line for the work.